Hello, everyone. This is Amber Wynn, Philanthrepreneur, and today is actually our last session with Kimberly Worthy of A Worthy Cause. And we are going to dive into probably one of the most important sessions for a nonprofit, and that's compliance. And I know I've said that about probably all of the other sessions, but they have been important. But this one is important because 50% of a nonprofit's funding strategy should be compliant. You've done all of this work to secure these grants and funding, and then what? Do you just toss it away because you don't do the reporting accurately? No, 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 no. Stay in compliance so that you can continue to get refunded, right? And to make sure that you don't get your tax exempt status revoked. So come join me as we spend our last session with Kimberly Worthy of A Worthy Cause. Had you done any research prior to the masterclass about how to start a nonprofit?
I did a little bit, but there's so much information out there. It's just like I feel like I want to say no, you know what I mean? Because there was just so much information, and I was just kind of like getting a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then when it all, when I came to the master class, I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But I thought I knew things coming in. So that's why I want to say no, because I thought I knew things coming in, but I didn't.
Yeah, no, that's been my experience. And I say to people all the time, listen, the information that I'm sharing, it's not Amber Wynn's information. It's the IRS. It's the, state franchise tax board. It's, the general attorneys. It's not my information. It's the information for nonprofits that governing agencies are putting out there. But the difference is, as you mentioned, there's so much information out there, you can become overwhelmed. What goes first? What goes second? And a lot of times people will start in stage 5 because they're like, oh, I have a mission statement. Oh, I have, some programs, when they really should be in stage 1, as we
Mhm.
learned, right?
Yes.
Right. So I really want to encourage anyone listening to this to, if you really, really want to be effective, if you really want to build out a nonprofit, just really, really be honest with yourself. When you read the descriptions, don't just say, oh, I have a mission statement. Is your mission statement one that inspires? Is it succinct? Does it talk about who your target audience is? Like, those things make a difference. It's one thing
Mhm.
to check a box, it's another thing to have measurable goals and objectives. Do you have an event or do you have a program? So it's just really important, if you want this process to work, to be honest and to put in the work. And Kimberly, you put in the work. So let's dive into this obey and honor, honor and obey. Yeah, honor and obey. We're talking about compliance. And did you put much thought into compliance when thinking about starting your nonprofit? Was it even on your radar?
No, actually. And then when I get to this module, I'm like, oh, so there's, and you know about the EIN number, and then you have to register with the state, but you got to register with the state 2 different times, and then you got to register on the local level. Like, no, I did not think all those things through when I was thinking about a nonprofit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't know, I think because there's not a lot of conversation going on about it, but founders, when they start their nonprofit, aren't really locked into, I have to file with the general attorney's office if I'm going to fundraise. I have to file with the state franchise tax board. I have to file with the Secretary of State. If you don't, they have the authority to revoke your tax exempt status. Like, that is powerful.
Yes.
So for a lot of times when I was grant writing, Kimberly, people would say, "Oh, I haven't been able to get these grants." The very first thing I do is I run in organizations tax ID numbers, and I put them in each one of those, for the general attorneys, and if it comes back and it says tax exempt status revoked, I'm not going to write your grant. I know you're not going to get funded, but people aren't paying attention to that. So they're writing grants, and they're not getting funded because they haven't been in compliance. They haven't
Mm.
filed those forms. And it's really important because there are systems in place. to make sure that taxpayers' dollars are protected, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just not something that people think about, but it's really huge. I always say 50% of your fundraising strategy is compliance. Because think about it, you've put in all of this time, you got this funding, whether it's grants, whether it's corporate sponsorships, whatever it is, you've got this funding, you have it. But if you don't do what you need to do in terms of compliance, filing your forms, filing your reports, making sure that you do your statement of information, and you lose your tax exempt status, all of that goes to.
Mhm. Yeah, and this goes hand in hand with systems, right? Which was the step that I just did, right? If you don't have your systems in place, then all of this right here is gonna fall apart
That's right.
inevitably.
And it also ties back to the very first module, get your house in order, having your banking account, right? Your
Yes.
business banking account. Because if you have your business banking account, it's going to connect to your systems. Those systems
Mhm.
are going to track your transactions, and they're going to be able to produce the reports that you need for your compliance.
Yes. Yes.
So
A
if you
beautiful.
started in module 7, right, then you don't have any of those foundational things in place. So that's what we mean by, you know, making sure that you go through the course, one module at a time, because all of the information builds on each other. There is no wasted time.
Right.
It's getting you ready. You don't even know. So in the compliance section, I talk a lot about getting ready. So if you were to receive a grant, right? The first thing that the funder is going to give you, it's called an award letter. And in that award letter, they detail what their expectations are.
Mm.
That is the document that you use to set up your compliance. So if they say, all right, Kimberly, you've been awarded $250,000. And in that $250,000, we want you to produce a quarterly report. So the first thing you know is you've got to set up for those quarterly reports, right?
Right. Right.
In that award letter, it's going to say, this is what we want you to report on. We want you to report on the number of people that you served. We want you to report on the number of partnerships that you've created. And so you take that award letter and you back into it. When you set up your files, you set them up to say, okay, page 1, they want us to verify all of our applicants' residency. So that application, the intake process, you're going to have an
Mm.
intake sheet, right? That says, hi,
Mhm.
my name is Joshua Jones, and I'm an emancipated youth. So we know how old that person is, whether or not they have a permanent home, whatever that zip
Right.
code that's going to, if you have an audit, then that person is going to be able to look at those zip codes and say, all of these clients are in the service area that we fund. That's
Right.
important, right? Then
Yes.
they're going to spot check and they're going to look at all of the applications that you have to say, she said she was going to serve 25. Here are all of the folders for those 25 people, right?
Mhm.
Then she's going to open the flap and it's going to say, okay, well, she said that she was going to have them doing, funny money once a week. So you have either documentation of them doing exercises, activities, or something, sign-in sheets, something to prove that they've been doing it. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe it's you have those modules online, and at the end of each of those module is a test, which is I can demonstrate that, right? I can
Yes.
demonstrate that from those case studies, and that's one of the reasons I can say to my funders, yeah, I know if they complete the modules, here's a sample of her test, right?
Mhm.
She missed
Right.
one on this one, she missed 0 on that one, but I can demonstrate proof. You print that out, you put it in the folder. So
Mhm.
compliance is important because it's you proving to your funder that you actually did what you said you were going to do in that grant.
Right.
And people will be like, I've had people come to me and say, Amber, my program officer said, I owe them a quarterly report. What information am I giving them? I'm like, what do you mean? What information are you giving them? Did you get an award letter? Like, if you
Right.
get an award letter, it should tell you. And they're like, I don't know what I did with that letter. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Mm.
Hmm. But generally speaking, that award letter is that contract between the grantee and the funder that says, okay, this is what we agree. You're going to get this amount for this grant period. Here are the instructions. In those instructions, they'll also say, wherever you deliver this program, you need to say, they'll give you a little blurb. We'd like to thank our funders, right? Or they'll
Right.
say, do not mention us. Either
Oh,
way, yeah, yeah. Sometimes funders are anonymous because they don't want to get a slew of people asking them for money. They want to be able
yeah,
to handpick their grantees,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but those instructions are in there. But all of that is detailed in your award letter, as is how frequently you're supposed to submit a report. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's just twice a year. They want it in the middle and they want it in the end. And in there, they will tell you what type of reports. They will say, we need a profit and loss statement, income statement. They'll tell you. And that's what you give to your bookkeeper and your accountant to say, okay, this is how you're going to track this type of information because this is what they're going to ask for.
Right. I love it. Just tell me what I need to do so I can produce it for you. No guesswork.
No guesswork. And it's really hard. So the reason why the systems are important is because that's where you track your receipts. You scan them in and you have them. It's really hard if you're doing programs every week, Kimberly, and um, at the end of the program year, which is December, or it may be July, depending on your fiscal, calendar. But if they said, okay, I need a receipt for that popcorn machine, um, you bought it back in June, and you're like, popcorn machine, the one sitting over there in that corner. Like, yeah, that came from the grant. I need a receipt saying that you. So if you have systems, the minute that you purchase that popcorn machine and you get the receipt, you use that Adobe scanner, boom,
Mhm.
scanner right there. It goes into your system. So now when it's time for you to do the report, you go bloop, 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 receipt month, boom, down, done.
Done. Yes.
So you don't have to try and go back and find stuff.
Mhm.
Systems allow you to do what you need to do in this last module, which is demonstrate proof that you purchased using the budget line items allocated, right?
Mhm.
Spent the amount that you were allocated to spend, right?
Yeah.
And that you understand that this is a give and take. They have given you money, right? And now you're
Right.
going to give them documented proof that you spent that money the way that you were supposed to spend. With those budget line items, so let's just say it's rent, right? And you've
Mhm.
got 3 grants. One is the ABC Foundation, the other one is the Elemental P Foundation, and the next one is the XYZ Foundation. But they all are giving you rent. So how do you allocate that from your one business account? It's called chart of accounts and cost center. So ABC is going to be 001. Elemental P is going to be 002, and then XYZ is going to be 003. So when you're producing your reports, you're going to say, I took $500 from each one of those funders to pay my rent.
Mm.
Got to show that they came from each account. So on that piece of paper, you're like rent, and it says 001 dash, and then the budget line item for rent is 5. So it'll be 001 dash 5, 002 dash 5, 003 dash
Mhm.
5. So when your
Right.
accountant and your bookkeeper are allocating the monies, they know it comes from this grant for this budget line item. So when they
Right.
run those reports and your funder, like they're looking at it, they're like, oh, okay, you only took $500 out of your bank account from this grant. So that's why when we say generally accepted accounting practices, there are things that you have to know that your funder's expecting. They're expecting you to be able to show how much money from each budget line item did you spend from their grant.
Mhm.
That's why you have to have systems in place. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Because when it comes down to compliance, where they're going to get the information from. Yeah, and I think, a lot of times when you don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing, compliance can be scary. But if you've done the work in the course and you understand the why and then you understand how to get to that, what it is that they're asking, it becomes less scary,
Mhm.
right? You know why you're doing the compliance is because the funder wants to know how you spent the money. And you have the resources to do it. You've got the systems. So what's there to be
Mhm.
afraid of?
Right, and we want them to give us more money, so we wanna make sure we give them the information they ask for when they ask for it. We don't wanna be late in turning in that
Exactly.
information either.
And I tell people all the time, especially when you're building a relationship with your program officer, if your report is due on the 30th, don't turn it in on the 30th. Don't do that. Turn it in on the 25th, because now you have 5 days for your program officer to look at it and say, "Ooh, Amber, this is off. Can you fix it?" So then you fix it so that you still are in time for the 30th.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Having been a program officer, I can tell you it makes me like you more. You want your program officer to like you. You want your program officer to be your ambassador. And the way you do that is by making their job easier,
Mhm.
right? If when you turn in your reports, you give them a success story. You say, this story right here is about, Joshua. When Joshua came in, he was so angry, bless his heart. And he had every reason to be. His mom had abandoned him. He had grown up in a group home, and he was referred by this counselor because his counselor knew I was gonna love up on this baby, right? So Joshua came to a worthy cause. He hung out with us for a whole year. And at the end of this program, he was one of my rising stars. He got his GED. We got him on track to get him a job at the grocery store. Guess what? Now he's the manager of his department, stocking, he's training people, and he's my hookup. So when I get other kids, he's like, "Miss Worthy, bring them here. I'm gonna train them and I'm gonna make sure that they get a job." This is what happens when you fund a worthy cause. You give that success story to a funder, they're going to go right back to their board and say, "Look at what we did." They're going to take
Yeah.
credit for all your work, but that's fine. They funded you.
Keep funding us. Keep funding us. We'll keep doing the work.
So those are the things that you really want to do to make sure that your program officer becomes your brand ambassador. You want them always to have your name, in their mouth. Speaking
Yes.
good things, of course. Speaking good.
Yes.
So one of the ways that you do that is by making sure that you're always in compliance, that you turn your reports in as early as possible. When you call your program officer, you're telling them good things. So I'm sharing all of these insider secrets and trade secrets because people don't understand when you turn in a report late, not only does it damage your reputation with that organization, the funding circle is small, right? So program officers tend to hang out with program officers, funders tend
Mhm.
to, so they'll say, "Hey guys, we've got this new initiative. Amber, aren't you working with, a worthy cause? We're thinking about reaching out to them." Guess what Amber's face is gonna say? Right. If you are a terrible grantee, this is what Amber's face is gonna say. "You can fund them if you want to." And they're
Right.
gonna be like, "Oh, say no more," right? Say
Yes.
no more. They're not gonna reach out to you. But if they
Yeah.
say, "Well, how's your experience?" "We love Kimberly." "Oh, yes, absolutely give her funding. You are going to love her. She's always on time. She gives great success stories. She pulled us out of a crunch one time." They're gonna be like, "Yes." People say to me all the time, "This organization always gets funded. We never get funded. They just, you know, funders talk." So when you notice an organization always getting funding, it's because somebody told that other funder that they were a
Mhm.
good grantee. So then that's why they're funded. They always get funded. They're doing what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Trust and
Right.
believe that they're turning their reports in on time. Trust and believe that their reports look good, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Funded nonprofits tend to get funded because
Mm.
funders, they want a sure thing. So if they're
Yeah.
in small circles and they're having conversations together, then they're going to be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, they are trustworthy." That's another reason why on your website, when you get funded by whatever foundation, you're going to put it on your website because other funders are going to be like, well, if Amber Wynn Foundation trusts them, then I'm going to trust them,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yes.
why
Yes.
people put those logos on there, because it says somebody trusts me with their money. So just those little trade secrets. The funding circle is really small. You don't want to mess it up by messing up your compliance.
When I think of compliance, I think of not so much as like a daunting task, right? But something get excited about to get your blood pumping, like, we're gonna get more funding, we're gonna get more visibility, like we're gonna stay in the game longer, we're gonna build, you know what I mean? So it's like compliance is that evil necessary, but it doesn't have to be evil.
That's right. That's right. Not if you're looking at it from the mindset of this is setting us up for more money. And even if some funders are like, you can't get multiple years of funding, but the fact that you were successful with that one particular funder is still going to position you for other funders. So even then, right? So yeah, that is the perfect mindset to have. Yes, it's a necessary evil, and it's going to powerfully position you for future funding. So
Yes.
yes, I love that. Well, I'm so excited that I have had the opportunity to work with you, over the past couple of weeks. I'm just going to tell this story. You don't mind, do you?
No, not at all.
So, I did the masterclass, The Four Secrets of Successful Nonprofits. And we were, I thought having a good time, engaging, at the end. And there were some follow-up emails. And I think Kimberly reached out to me and she was like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to do it, And I was like, hey, if you're serious about it, would you like to partner with me and I'll walk you through the whole process? She was like, ain't nothing but a word. Sure would. Sure would. It was just something random. I was like, maybe if people got to hear a real person, right? Talk about their struggles and their fears and, you know, things that they're going through naturally as well. And they could see that, 90 days to a profitable nonprofit has the solutions that they need to address all of their fears, all of their concerns, and they walk away at the end with confidence, not only with the knowledge, right? Because you have the knowledge now, but you also have the resources. You've got the templates, you've got the workbooks, you've got the systems that you need to pick, all of that. Because my goal, my purpose is to support the most amazing people on the planet, which would be my nonprofit founders. And I just felt like, well, maybe I'm talking too much because y'all know I can talk. But getting to witness you, Kimberly, go through this process and ask your questions, I'm hoping that it will encourage more people to just really invest in them, because it's an investment. But it's also going to produce, I guarantee you, 4 times that investment, because now you have the knowledge, now you have the infrastructure, now you've positioned your nonprofit so that you can far outdo and exceed your competitors. But more importantly, it is in alignment with that old saying, give a person a fish, they'll eat a meal one night. But if you teach them how to fish, they'll eat the rest of their lives. Now that you
Yeah,
have this knowledge, you can powerfully position your nonprofit to be around generations long after you're gone.
for sure. For
And
sure.
that's what I want to see. I want to see more nonprofits that are not struggling, but they're making the impact that you started your nonprofit to make. So I just really want to thank you for your time and for your commitment, because you put in the work.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be one-sided, right? To
No,
make a dream come true, you got to do the work.
you have to do the work. So thank you so much. I'm not going anywhere. So
I hope not. You just get started.
I know. When you start recruiting your board members and hiring your staff, I may have to jump on a plane and come out and help you christening, a worthy cause when you open up that. I'm just saying.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. And that's what I wanted to say. Like, starting out this nonprofit, just to anybody that just has a thought, right? You know what I mean? Like, this program, it just takes that thought and it kind of grows it. You know what I mean? And it kind of grows an excitement at first, and then the knowledge comes, and then there's the confidence. You know what I mean? So it's like it just gives you that push to just be able to walk in any room and talk about your idea. Like that's what I love most about it. Like I said, we're just getting started. You know what I mean? You have a whole community to support. I always have questions, and you can get on a podcast or,
Yes.
any one of those community things that you have, and ask your questions, and kind of get feedback from other people that's already been in that position and then conquered that.
Yes. And in community, we support each other because we know the struggle is real. Everything is not perfect. Just because you have good intentions doesn't mean that things are perfect, but you have people there. And in Fusion, that's what we do. We support our community. We love upon them. We share our resources. We share our experiences because at the end of the day, even though you're in Missouri and I'm here in Los Angeles, our goal is to make this world a better place. So
Yep.
if you're struggling and I have solutions, I'm going to share them with you. And if I'm struggling and you have solutions, you're going to share them with me. So inside of Fusion, we create that community and we support each other. So thank you for pointing that out because I think that's important too.
Yes.
I don't have all of the answers. Some of you guys have your own homegrown answers and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great way to approach that." So in community, we also support each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is the most important thing right there, community.
Hey fam, it's your girl Amber Wynn, and we are wrapping up our coaching session with Kimberly Worthy of A Worthy Cause. Thank you for joining us. It's been amazing just to see the strides that Kimberly has made, how far she's come, the insights that she's gleaned. But I hope you've been able to just really understand that a nonprofit is a business. It's just a business with a philanthropic purpose. I also hope that you were able to just glean from what Kimberly's been going through to know that you have the supports, you have the resources, you have your girl. I'm here for you. And if you're interested in diving deeper and getting more information about how to run an effective nonprofit, a profitable nonprofit, click the link below and it'll take you to the resources that will give you access to all of the information that Kimberly has had access to during our coaching period. Thank you. Don't forget to check me out, not only just on YouTube, but visit my website, www.amberwin.net. Go to my socials. Y'all know I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. What I really want you to leave this experience knowing is that I got you.